Today we're going over mastering English through podcasts. So we're going to learn how to build fluency with daily habits using a daily buzzword. So one of the most common questions people ask me is, how can I improve my English without spending hours studying grammar and vocabulary? The answer is simple. You're going to want to build small daily habits that help you learn, review, and use English regularly. And that's exactly why I added daily podcasts into my program. So you're going to use the podcasts, such as the Daily Buzzword, along with the podcast activity worksheet or form that I've included, along with a speaking practice in which you'll record yourself daily, talking about that same buzzword or topic for about 5 minutes a day. So let me show you how to use them together. So your goal, by the end of the session, you will be able to establish a daily routine for practicing English. You'll apply specific strategies for podcast listening and vocabulary retention. You'll use shadowing to improve your pronunciation and natural speech rhythm. And you'll understand the value of consistency over intensity in language acquisition. So we're not looking to spend hours studying. We're looking to be consistent and build habits every day. So don't be overwhelmed with textbooks and studying. Just build the habits. So step one, what we're going to do is every day focus on one new expression, one new word. And don't just memorize it, internalize it. So ask yourself, where have I heard this word? And can I use it in my professional life? For example, you might start with the word initiative. So you're going to learn what it means, when you'd use it in your daily life. Think about if you've heard it before and how you could use it. So an example of a sentence you could come up with is, I took the initiative to organize the team meeting. Or if you're talking about yourself, I took the initiative to start improving my English fluency. So you're going to use the worksheet that I provided, and you're going to write down some things you heard, some sentences you heard, and you're going to come up with your own sentences like this one. Step two, you're going to listen to the podcast. So when you're listening to the Business English Buzzwords, for example, don't stop for every unknown word. It's okay if there's words you don't know. Just focus on the main message, focus on the speaking pattern, how are they saying it, and focus on the familiar vocabulary. Many learners stop listening when they hear an unfamiliar word. I don't want you to stop. I want you to keep on listening. And as long as you're understanding about 60 to 70% of the podcast in general, that's all we need to do. You don't have to know every word that comes up. Step three, you have a worksheet in your program that you're going to fill out. It's like a form. And basically, it's not a test. It's just a memory anchor. So writing things down helps to move the language from your short-term memory into your long-term storage. Because you know that you only remember a percentage of what you hear, you retain more of what you hear and write. And I always say the see it, say it, and write it method. So I would say it's important to see the word, hear it, and write down important things that you've heard. So it's going to help you check your comprehension of the main idea. Do you know what they're talking about? What is the main topic? What did they speak about? And then you're going to reflect on how this relates to your job. How have you heard this word? How could you use this word? And you'll fill out the form as you go each day. So, as I said, writing helps to strengthen your memory and improves your ability to recall the vocabulary later when you're speaking. Don't rush through the worksheet. Take the time to think about your answers and make connections to your own experiences. Step 4, daily speaking practice. So the most critical step is many students know English, but they can't speak it because they don't practice the physical act of talking. So for example, if you say you want to win a race or run a marathon, just watching videos and reading about running fast isn't going to make you run fast. What's going to help you win or accomplish your goal is the actual running itself. So you have to run to be able to run quicker and, set your goals. So remember, you're going to record yourself, listen to your progress, and notice where you hesitate or maybe specific mistakes that you're making, and compare yourself to the speaker. So listen to maybe your first sentence versus their first sentence. Do you sound similar? Is there a major difference? Is there something you need to focus on? And then you'll start to notice if it's your pronunciation, if it's your, whatever it is that you're not quite matching, that's where we want to work on. So as I said, record yourself. It can be speaking in front of a mirror. It could be talking with a partner, just to listen to how you're speaking. Now, step 5 is one of the techniques that we've also talked about, and that is shadowing. There is a separate video on shadowing, but we're going to just briefly talk about it here. So shadowing is when you listen to a short section of the podcast, and you're going to repeat that sentence or phrase immediately after the speaker. So it's not listening to the whole podcast. Now you're taking a sentence or a phrase and you listen, you pause, and then you speak that same phrase or sentence again. Don't just repeat the words. Mimic the emotion, the stress, and the rhythm. Are they focusing on a certain word? Are they pausing at this specific area? Is there a rhythm? Is there a silent letter that you need to make sure that you focus on? So you want to try to sound just like the speaker. And this is one of the fastest ways that you'll improve your fluency and your confidence. So first thing is to listen again, play 10 seconds of the podcast without speaking. Mimic, that means imitate. Play it again and speak at the same time as the host. So you could say it together. And then refine it. Focus on matching the highs and lows of their voice. So you want to imitate them exactly. So your daily routine could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And here's a little checklist to follow. So you want to learn the buzzword, read it, make sure you know how to pronounce it. If you don't know the meaning, you could look it up in the dictionary. There are some sites where you can, or on the dictionary where you could see how to pronounce it. Then you're going to start listening to the podcast. The podcast talks about the word, the definition, ways to use the word. You're going to listen to all of that. Then you're going to complete the worksheet. So write a little bit about the main idea, words or phrases you heard, maybe some new vocabulary that you learned. Write some sentences of your own about that word or topic. And number 4, you're going to spend at least, hopefully 10 or 15 minutes of shadowing. So listen to a phrase and repeat the phrase. And I also suggest that you freely speak about that topic. So there's speaking and there's shadowing. So the speaking part is just to take about 5 minutes and record yourself talking about everything you heard in that podcast. You could say if you agree, if you don't agree, how they've used it, ways people use it, ways you could use that word. Just freely speak. And don't think about your grammar, your pronunciation, anything right now. Just freely speak and allow yourself to just talk for 5 minutes, record yourself, and then listen to it again, just to see if there's anywhere you can improve. Remember, consistency is more important than intensity. So a little practice every day is way more effective than a lot of practice just once a week. So we don't want to just spend one day a week, right? We want to do something consistently every day. And this is something you can do 30 minutes a day, listening and speaking. And this is how you're going to improve the most. If you can't do it daily, aim for at least 3 times a week. The brain learns through frequent exposure, not marathon sessions. So we don't want to spend like 10 hours on the weekend trying to do everything. We'd rather do 30 minutes a day, every day. And consistency is more important than intensity, like I said. So the daily flow. This is the recommended flow for your routine. I would recommend that you learn the buzzword, listen to the podcast episode, complete the review worksheet form for the related to the buzzword, and then take some time to speak and record yourself and shadow after certain phrases. So some shadowing and some speaking. And do this every day for hopefully at least 30 minutes a day. So why does this method work? Passive input is you're listening to the podcast, it's building your ear for the language. You're starting to hear the native speakers talk daily. You learn how they actually use the grammar, the pronunciation, and the stuff that you're going to learn. There's also the active output part. So speaking and writing forces your brain to find the word. So when I'm telling you to just speak for 5 minutes, you're not trying to translate, you're not answering a question. You're just making your brain find the words to say for 5 minutes straight. This builds confidence that you need for meetings, that you need for job interviews, that you need for working in day-to-day life. So this is going to help you build and retain that vocabulary. So trust the process. Every conversation, every podcast is a step forward. Don't look for perfection. Look for progress. Small daily improvements will lead to big results. So, to improve your fluency, you should spend a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes shadowing to mimic the speaker's rhythm. Remember that consistency is more important than studying many hours a week. I do suggest you do the lessons for grammar and pronunciation, but this is what's going to help you improve. So look at your schedule. When do you have at least 30 minutes a day to complete your English routine? And how will you hold yourself accountable? Do you have an accountability partner that you're going to check up on each other? Do you want me to check up on you 3 times a week on specific days and make sure that you've completed? Or do you have a way to be accountable to yourself? And I suggest rewarding yourself when you do accomplish your goals. So you might have said, I could listen to the podcast during my morning commute. Maybe you take the train or you have a 30-minute drive to work. That's the perfect time to listen to your podcast. Maybe you're going to set a daily reminder on your phone every day at 8 p.m. to listen to your podcast. Maybe you'll say that you want to use your lunch break to complete the worksheet. That's a great time. Or a break. I'm sure we all have a 15-minute break. And for accountability, you might find a study buddy to practice the speaking prompts twice a week. So set your goals, plan your routine, and set yourself up for success. You ready to level up your career? Your first daily buzzword is waiting. Open your first podcast episode and take the initiative today.